So welcome everyone to Parent Conversations. I am filling in for Megan today. She was not able to join us, but I'm Shirley Griffiths. I'm the director of My Discovery Destination and the coordinator for the Discovery Family Coalition. We're very grateful to the Bear River Health Department, the Davis County Health Department, and the Central Utah Public Health Departments that make this possible and provide these parent conversations, which we are excited to be hearing feedback that they are making a difference and that parents are making a change and being more intentional in the way they interact with their kids. So super excited to hear that. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Michelle, and let you work your magic. Help us be better parents.
Well, I hope that there will be some helpful information today. We are, in fact, talking about relationships, even though really everything that we've been doing and talking about sort of leads up to this. I think it's safe to say that this is the reason we're all here. It's the reason Jan and I do what we do at Epic, and everything in the digital wellness course in our minds really starts to come together here in this module. So we're excited for this topic today.
Well, and relationships is exactly what My Discovery Destination is all about. So
exactly, exactly.
Of why we're here and what we do.
So as usual, we'll start first with a self check-in. And the reason we do this is because everything in digital wellness starts with self-awareness and practicing it ourselves, and then helping teach our children the same thing. So if you've got paper and pencil handy, take a moment and write down 3 words that describe how you are feeling at the moment. I actually changed this, instead of feeling today, feeling at the moment, because we can do these kinds of check-ins at any moment through the day. And if you're just listening, then just stop for a minute and think, okay, how am I feeling at the moment? Just pick 3 words that describe how you're feeling. If we had more time, we would do this in a roundtable discussion. I'd encourage you to try this with your family and open up discussions once in a while to give family members opportunities to talk about how they're feeling.
And Michelle, if I could just add to what you were just saying, when you actually said this, write down the 3 words, I realized that in the last 10 minutes, my 3 words have changed drastically.
Yes.
This morning I've had tons to do. I've been kind of, the 3 words maybe would have been, overwhelmed, busy. I mean, it's been a good morning, but it's been a really busy morning. And just in that few minutes of interacting with you guys and talking changed everything. My words at this moment would be, excited and, fulfilled. And so, yeah, it changes throughout the day.
Thank you for sharing that. That is so interesting and just on point. So thank you so much for sharing that.
And I think it also speaks to relationships and how
Indeed.
Relationships play a part, because that's where the change came from. Seeing, 3 dear friends that, I feel like you guys, as I've gotten to know you, that just brought joy to my life to go, oh my goodness, there's Catherine and her cute family, and Michelle and Jan that I work together and love and appreciate their work. Relationships are everything.
Touche. We can really just even stop there. It does make a difference to make connections, and it's just perfect entree into what we're talking about today. The second part of our check-in every week is, I'm just going to open it up in this way. If you did practice or discuss any of the honoring time topics, then we'd love to hear about that, or even just any digital wellness success or insight. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? I know we have a small group today, so we'll just open it up for sharing, but
I can share something. So
Thank you.
one thing that I've been trying to do is, and I don't remember which one we talked about this, but I've been trying to be more careful about when I jump on screen time in the morning. Usually I'm pretty crazy trying to get kids to school and stuff, so there's not really time to jump on right away. But we had fall break last week, and so I tried to be a little bit more mindful of, okay, this is morning time, let's get into the right zone with the kids and stuff before jumping on.
And did you notice a difference? How did that feel?
I felt like I was more aware of what was going on around me, you know?
And sounds like what was going on within you as well. That actually isn't an easy challenge to follow through with, I think, for most of us, because that call to check in with the world and, in our devices is really strong. So kudos to you.
I can just share one thing too. My husband and I were Sunday night, we're just gonna discuss some things, and I just suggested to him, well, just leave your phone in the other room and let's just talk without our phones by us. And for me, I really felt it on this whole concept, like you get up in the morning and you don't check your phone. It allows you to actually sit in your experiences a little bit and ponder them and analyze them. And I think that we had a better conversation because we didn't get distracted by, oh, we've got to calendar this or whatever. So
sometimes even the use of the tools in what we're doing can be a distraction because of that mere presence phenomenon. And it's like this whole other world that's always calling to us, not just whatever tool where we want to use it, like a calendar or whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting to me. I just felt like we could honor that chance to discuss some things that had happened that day that were really significant, and just kind of get on the same page
and be present with that.
Yeah. So to me,
so can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
We talked about the impact of mere presence on us individually. What I'm hearing is that for you, there's also an impact of the presence of your husband's phone impacting you. Not just the pull of the device to you, but the pull of the device for him that impacts you.
Right.
Yeah. I think that is when my kids were teenagers, that was a challenge at times, that you could always feel that they were pulled to their phones, and even if I wasn't being distracted with mine, it can impact relationships sort of in that indirect way.
So that actually made me think of something when I think it was just last night that I sit here on the couch and I have kind of everything here with me as I'm working, and my phone is usually tucked between the pillows. And so he got home and we were chatting and he was, telling me something, and I heard the phone dinging. And I knew that it was important. I mean, it was just kind of what had been going on right before he walked in the door. I knew that it was important, but I was very intentional, and he will never know this, but because I just ignored it, and it really I had to be really intentional in doing that, because I knew that there was something important waiting there, but I was good. This was one of my good moments. I'm not always good. A lot of times I just pick it up and look at it and then, put it aside or whatever. But I knew that me picking up the phone would impact him and, what he was telling me, and maybe cut it short or whatever. So I ignored the phone and waited until he, went off, when he was done, and went off to pick up my phone and check. So I did something right this week.
That is a huge victory. Those kinds of moments can be difficult, but can be defining. So that's really, and you know, if you measure it in a Pomodoro, 25 minutes, we aren't going to lose a lot by waiting for 25 minutes to, you know, to respond to something, unless somebody's, you know, dying, which is not usually the case. That it really is okay to wait for a bit, and we can train our brains to think differently in that way. So that's a big one, friend. I know that's not easy.
Like I said, my husband will never know, but it made all the difference, I think, in our relationship and him. I mean,
Yes.
he would have been, you know, he would have been fine if I picked it up and looked at it. But we had a great conversation. I think we had a better conversation, and I heard more about his day because I left it there and I just let him keep going.
That crossroads moment time that you honored, that we talked about last week. And it does something in you and your brain. If we practice saying no to that immediacy, then our brains get used to prioritizing what's important instead of what's immediate. And that's powerful. So powerful. And Shirley, your comment actually segues into this. Usually when I show our model, I have a kind of a narrow oval that just catches media literacy and the core values and just the topic at hand. But I deliberately expanded that a little bit to show that relationships, when we talk about relationships, it's really a culmination of everything that we've talked about to this point. As we focus on our own mental and physical wellness and honoring time, we are honoring relationships. We're more able to honor relationships. Everything really is connected. I'm the main takeaway today. Can you see the whole thing? Are you able to see? Can you see that whole quote?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay. That this is the key takeaway, that technology can either facilitate or hinder our relationships. It's up to us and how we choose to use the technology.
See, and this is so true, because as I'm thinking about it, I mean, with some of my kids that are far away, my son, you know, who's in Ithaca teaching at Cornell, I mean, technology is how we have a relationship. You know,
Yes.
that's really the only way. And this week we were able to use technology for a birthday party. One of my grandkids had a birthday party that ended up, because of sickness, having to change. And I mean, technology can be wonderful and helps me have that relationship with them. But it can also hinder relationships when you are in person if you let the technology get in the way.
I'm in the exact same boat, because I'm still sheltering in place. So technology is the only way. So it definitely has its place. Okay, we're going to try to show a video clip here. I just changed the settings to optimize for sound. So as we watch this video from Dr. Sherry Turkle, who founded an institute, or I can't remember what it was labeled, at MIT about technology and self. She's a licensed psychologist and has done research in sociology and personality, and has spent her career studying the impact of relationship on self and on relationships. And we just wanted you to hear straight from her. If the audio doesn't work, then I'll read the transcript of this clip. But as you listen, try to notice what she says about the three of the relationship categories that we'll be talking about today: relationship with self, relationship with our close people. This is sometimes in the research called bonding social capital, and the relationships around getting things done, more professional connections, or even weaker ties than that, called bridging social capital. And just be thinking in the back of your mind, how is technology impacting your relationships? Is it replacing? Is it interfering? Is it altering? Is it facilitating? You know, just kind of like those tensions that you were just talking about. So I am going to, again, let me know if the audio works okay here.
Technologies of mobile communication, and I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, young and old, about their.
Is that working okay?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've put it on a little faster speed because it's a fairly long clip. So just so
That's
you
why she's talking faster. Okay.
talking a little faster, but I wanted to be able to get this whole clip in. So
Plugged in lives. And what I've found is that our little devices, those little devices in our pockets, are so psychologically powerful that they don't only change what we do, they change who we are. Some of the things we do now with our devices are things that only a few years ago we would have found odd or disturbing, but they've quickly come to seem familiar, just how we do things. So just to take some quick examples, people text or do email during corporate board meetings. They text and shop and go on Facebook during classes, during presentations, actually during all meetings. People talk to me about the important new skill of making eye contact while you're texting. People explain to me that it's hard, but that it can be done. Parents text and do email at breakfast and at dinner while their children complain about not having their parents' full attention, but then these same children deny each other their full attention. This is a recent shot of my daughter and her friends being together while not being together. And we even text at funerals. I study this. We remove ourselves from our grief or from our reverie, and we go into our phones. Why does this matter? It matters to me because I think we're setting ourselves up for trouble. Trouble certainly in how we relate to each other, but also trouble in how we relate to ourselves, in our capacity for self-reflection. We're getting used to a new way of being alone together. People want to be with each other, but also elsewhere, connected to all the different places they want to be. People want to customize their lives. They want to go in and out of all the places they are because the thing that matters most to them is control over where they put their attention. So you want to go to that board meeting, but you only want to pay attention to the bits that interest you. And some people think that's a good thing, but you can end up hiding from each other, even as we're all constantly connected to each other. 50-year-old businessman laments to me that he feels he doesn't have colleagues anymore at work. When he goes to work, he doesn't stop by to talk to anybody, he doesn't call, and he says he doesn't want to interrupt his colleagues because he says they're too busy on their email. But then he stops himself and he says, you know, I'm not telling you the truth. I'm the one who doesn't want to be interrupted. I think I should want to, but actually I'd rather just do things on my BlackBerry. Across the generations, I see that people can't get enough of each other if and only if they can have each other at a distance in amounts they can control. I call it the Goldilocks effect. Not too close, not too far, just right. But what might feel just right for that middle-aged executive can be a problem for an adolescent who needs to develop face-to-face relationships. An 18-year-old boy who uses texting for almost everything says to me wistfully, someday, but certainly not now, I'd like to learn how to have a conversation. When I ask people, what's wrong with having a conversation? People say, I'll tell you what's wrong with having a conversation. It takes place in real time, and you can't control what you're going to say. So that's the bottom line. Texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present the self as we want to be. We get to edit, and that means we get to delete. And that means we get to retouch the face, the voice, the flesh, the body. Not too little, not too much, just right. Human relationships are rich, and they're messy, and they're demanding. And we clean them up with technology. And when we do, one of the things that can happen is that we sacrifice conversation for mere connection. We shortchange ourselves. And over time, we seem to forget this, or we seem to stop caring. I was caught off guard when Stephen Colbert asked me a profound question. A profound question. He said, don't all those little tweets, don't all those little sips of online communication add up to one big gulp of real conversation? My answer was no, they don't add up. Connecting in sips may work for gathering discrete bits of information. They may work for saying, I'm thinking about you, or even for saying, I love you. I mean, look at how I felt when I got that text from my daughter. But they don't really work for learning about each other, for really coming to know and understand each other. And we use conversations with each other to learn how to have conversations with ourselves. So a flight from conversation can really matter because it can compromise our capacity for self-reflection. For kids growing up, that skill is the bedrock of development. Over and over, I hear, I would rather text than talk. And what I'm seeing is that people get so used to being shortchanged out of real conversation, so used to getting by with less, that they become almost willing to dispense with people altogether. So, for example, many people share with me this wish that someday a more advanced version of Siri, the digital assistant on Apple's iPhone, will be more like a best friend, someone who will listen when others won't. I believe this wish reflects a painful truth that I've learned in the past 15 years. That feeling that no one is listening to me is very important in our relationships with technology. That's why it's so appealing to have a Facebook page or a Twitter feed, so many automatic listeners. And the feeling that no one is listening to me makes us want to spend time with machines that seem to care about us. We're developing robots. They call them social.
So were you able to see the video as well?
No. But we could hear it.
Well, that's good. Sorry for the lack of video. I should have pulled out and reshared. So what did you notice about what she talked about with regard to these three relationships: relationship with self, with close loved ones, and with work colleagues or others in those bridging ties? What stood out to you?
That they're interrelated, and to be able to have that relationship with a loved one will impact even your ability to self-reflect and to understand your own grounding.
Yeah, that's something that stands out to me as well. That's one of her main focuses in her research, is that capacity to self-reflect and how all of these things impact that. Other thoughts?
I think also the part where she was talking about the kids at the table wanting their parents' attention and then turning around and doing the same thing. It's like, yep, that's so true. We're training our kids just by what we're doing, and we might not even know it.
And the culture is as well. I mean, this is the nature of the beast, right? I mean, we here at home, we put off having our kids have phones, but they were around people, you know, their friends had phones. And so they became tech savvy before they even had technology of their own. My daughter was telling me, I remember her telling me about how Snapchat worked. And I kind of looked at her, I'm like, you don't even have a phone. How do you know this? Like, oh, well, but my friends do. And so it's just the water that we're all swimming in.
So I had some interesting thoughts, and I hope that this won't like detract from the conversation. I totally hear what she's saying and agree with everything that she's saying. I also couldn't help thinking about, so we have, okay, I have two sets of kids. I have my bio kids that I gave birth to, and I have my bonus kids that I was blessed with through marriage. And it's very interesting. They all get along when we're together. They get along great. But they very much, as far as communication, you know, they very much. So, for example, here's the thing that I was thinking. My kids, my bio kids, pretty much all call me on Sunday. You know, we'll have a phone call and we'll chat for a bit. And, you know, and it's wonderful. I love, you know, spending time and hearing from them, but I really don't know that much about their lives in terms of what goes on during the week. I know what they choose to tell me during that phone call for the most part. And they are, you know, they're spread out. So they're actually the ones that I kind of need to use the technology. My bonus kids all pretty much live here. I do have one daughter that's in Missouri, but they chat in Messenger all day long. And it, you know, I mean, they share what they're eating. They share jokes. They laugh about, I mean, it is like we are together all the time. And really, when I think about it, as far as that developing that strong, I have a great relationship with my bio kids because I raised them. Uh, and I have that relationship with them from the past. But if I were to, if I had gone into these two sets of kids at the same time with kind of the same relationship, I would be much closer to my bonus kids because we talk all the time through Messenger, very rarely on the phone. I mean, they pick up the phone, they call their dad. And in fact, he'll usually put them, if they call him when he's here at home, they'll put them on speaker. And, we have a really great relationship, but we use technology in a very positive way with them. And it really is, if I'm working, I can turn it off. And a lot of times, even if it's dinging, Michelle knows I get dinged a lot. I've turned those notifications off and it's quite nice. But even when it's dinging and I know that it's the conversation going on, I'll just wait until I'm ready to read it. But technology really can be used in that way as well.
Definitely. And throughout this conversation, our intention throughout all of this series is not to say technology is bad. It is to invite us all to think about the tensions and to be deliberate about how we use it. I mean, again, I've been in shelter in place mode for 19 months. And it's the only way that I am able to build relationships with my kids. And in some ways, given the phase that we're in, at least with two of my children, I feel like our relationships may actually be stronger because we're having to be more intentional about spending that time. I think her point is just, especially as you look at teenagers or whatever, if they're, I have some relationships that are impacted in this way, where if it's just a snippet here and a snippet there, and there isn't time taken, what you have built in time taken for relationships, and technology happens to be the facilitator. But the contrast to, hey, how are you doing? See you in an hour, and if it's that kind of fragmented connection, she uses connection as the faux replacement for conversation. Her research is on conversation. Are we taking the time to have conversations where we're taking the time to get to know each other and to understand what's going on in someone's life, not just having shallow interactions that can be done and that are avoiding some of the messiness of relationships. So you're hitting on the positive side, which is very, very real. So please don't misunderstand that use tech for good is one of our hashtags. We believe in the power of it. It's just how we use it. All right. So typically when Epic does gatherings like this, we start with an activity where we try to have a little bit of human connection. Obviously, we can't have a full and deep conversation, but we wanted, because this is the relationships topic today, we wanted to include this activity in our discussion today. So I will invite you. I'm going to set the timer where we usually do it for a minute, but I'm going to do it for 45 seconds just for the sake of time, to share either a memorable experience with weather or to share about a favorite nature experience. And I'll set the timer, and when the time's up, I'll just say time, and then you can just say, okay, I'm done, and we'll pass it to the next person. And the idea is to give everybody a chance to share. So I will start to just kind of model how we do this. I'm going to start the timer and share a memorable experience with weather. After grad school, moved to the East Coast. I lived in New Jersey for almost 5 years. And the second winter that I was there, I had just gotten home from New Jersey, from being here for Christmas break with my family. I was single at the time. And we got hit with what was called the blizzard of 96. And I think it was about 2 feet of snow and snow drifts up, halfway to my door, and they blocked off all the roads. So speaking of sheltering in place, I had to live off of whatever was in my cabinets for those days while we waited for the snow to melt. It was quite an experience. Okay, I'm done. The timer went off. I would like to just go around the Zoom. Catherine, is it Catherine? Sorry, I'm not seeing your name show up.
I'm still here.
Would you like to share?
Sure. Are you going to time me or do I need
I
to?
am.
Okay, perfect. So I'll share a story about weather as well. When I was a teenager, probably about 15 or 16, I went to a church youth camp called Especially for Youth. I think I was in either Illinois or Indiana. I went different years, so I can't remember which one. But we had a tornado siren go off in the middle of the night. So we all had to grab our roommates. We were staying in dorms, and we all had to head down to the basement, and we have all these kids, some of them are freaking out. Some of them are, handling it okay. Some of them are half asleep. And so to keep everybody calm, the counselors started singing church songs, which was really fun, helped calm people down until they started singing this song called God Be With You Until We Meet Again. we had everybody stop for a second. We all started laughing. That was a nice comic group. There were definitely some kids freaking out.
Thank you for sharing. Jan, would you like to share?
Sure. Years ago, my family had gone up to Canada for a family reunion, and it was in the summer, July 4th. And we stopped in Banff, and we were going on a hike, and we got on this hike, and it started snowing. And here we are in summer clothes, and it got really cold. And I just remember my older son, about 18 or so, carrying my little 4-year-old, or I don't know how old she was, on his shoulders. And my husband explaining, now you got to do the Boy Scout technique where you're going to warm her feet. You got to just put them right there against your chest. We were just trying to do anything to get down from this mountain in a snowstorm in our summer clothes.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Shirley, would you like to share? Can you hear the timer when it goes off, friends, or do you need me? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, we can hear it. And mine will be very short, but there are so many to choose from. But my favorite nature is, so we live, right in Logan, but it's in a really awesome area, kind of quiet down on the island. I've got lots of trees in the backyard, and we had lots of little squirrels. And I love waking up to the sound of the squirrels. Now, I don't like it when they steal my fruit. That does not make me happy, but I really love just all the nature in the backyard. And interestingly, this summer, all of a sudden we realized we didn't hear any squirrels, and I don't know where they went. I don't know what happened. From time to time, we'll see one out there, but it has changed. Something this year changed. So we miss them.
Thank you for sharing. Melissa, would you like to share? I don't know if Melissa's one with her.
Sometimes Melissa's sound doesn't work.
I was just checking chat to see.
Yep.
Okay. You can kind of get the drift of what these activities are like. The founder of the organization that did the internal research on this simple activity and building these kinds of activities into, in this context, work meetings, they found that it really can help build trust. And the founders come from a family of 10 children, and they would bring these kinds of activities to their families and find out that they learned things about each other simply by sharing stories that they didn't know. And so this is another type of activity that you could do with your family. There are boatloads of questions. You can get a sense of what they could be. I have a list of questions that we could, share sometime. But encouraging conversation and sharing and storytelling is one way to build a relationship. So we wanted to model just a little Costco sample of that today. All right, I'll go back to our slides. Thank you for participating. All right, we'll go through these three different relationship categories. First, relationship with self, and then bonding, and then bridging social capital. Can someone who can read the screen read that quote from Raymond Ketledge?
Time is an unrenewable resource. You can't get it back. All these things we've done to exchange information, to access information at our fingertips, have actually taken away our time for restoring the soul. You're giving away your soul's ability to be moved. If we'd spend more time in solitude, we'd value ourselves more.
This book, Lead Yourself First, is one that I recently listened to and had a real impact on me. The way he defined solitude as being with your own mind and your own thoughts. And in a digital world, this can be very difficult. So this is one element of honoring our relationship with ourselves is to build in time for solitude where we can figure out what we think, not just parroting other people's thoughts, but formulating and owning our own. For time's sake, we've had so much great discussion already. I'll invite you to take this discussion to your families. And we have a lot of quotes at the end in the bonus material that I'll let you just read on your own. Just wanted to bring this one piece of research in, that when we make changes for ourselves, we can impact people 3 degrees out, even if we don't know those people. One of the researchers says, when I make changes for myself, I'm potentially changing my son's life and my son's friend's life and my son's friend's mother's life. I'm not just taking care of myself, but taking care of people I care about and beyond. With our close relationships, we've talked a little bit about this already, but does anybody have any other thoughts on how technology is either facilitating or hindering the relationships that matter most to you? Shirley shared some of her thoughts. Does anybody else have something they'd like to share? This picture, I'll just share a couple moments. This picture on the bottom left is me participating in my daughter's birthday party. And oh, I'm going the wrong direction. I have a picture of me at my daughter's. So this is my daughter's wedding reception. Because of my health, I wasn't able to attend, but this is, they set up a camera for me. This is me talking to my parents at the reception. And my daughter, who is serving a mission for our church, who is in Florida, was able to give a speech at the wedding breakfast. So there are some examples of some of the positives that can happen with relationships. In this research on networks, they talk about how just where our social networks exist can impact our health. And they showed what kinds of relationships can have the most impact. So just where our relationships are at the moment can have an impact. And especially in a digital world, we can have an impact on what those networks are. James Clear is the author of Atomic Habits. We quoted him a little last week. He says, the groups we belong to shape our behavior. You can choose to join a group where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. During this time of self-isolation, I've done this. I've altered some of the groups that I've been a part of on Facebook so that I have more of the kind of energy around me, more the changing the water I'm swimming in. So we can have an impact, especially with technology, on the kinds of people we have in our closer inner circle. In terms of bridging social capital, this is more of the getting things done connection that we can build. I really like this from David Burkus, who wrote a book, Friend of a Friend, Understanding the Hidden Networks That Can Transform Your Life and Your Career. He says, even an hour a week on weak ties can improve professional and personal networks and open up opportunities to help and be helped. And so there's a balance here. We can easily be distracted and from every relationship that matters. It's easy on technology to spend an overabundance of time on more shallow relationships, not the closer ties, which of course are the ones that can bring the most satisfaction and impact our health the most. But if we spend some time on that bridging capital, it can be valuable. And so it's all about dancing in the tensions. I'm just going to mention this briefly. A woman named Barbara Scheer, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she accidentally discovered something really interesting about human nature and about groups. This goes more to the bridging capital that could actually turn into more bonding capital. She was facilitating a group of people I think it was in New York, who they would get together and they would just complain about their lives. That was the purpose, was just to be there to support each other with all the misery that they were going through. And at one point, I don't even remember what the transition was. Somebody said, I think it was somebody who said, hey, I really want to start dating. And so instead of focusing on sharing their woes, the group started to focus on, well, how can we help, this man in our group to find a date? And so they shifted their attention from what was wrong in their lives to helping each other. And she started a movement where people would get together in groups of around 6, and they would share their goals, and then they'd all get together to help each other. She said, people can't help but help each other. Even if they don't like each other, they are driven to help. So there's just an example of the power of connection and relationships. All right, I know we're getting close to time and we are almost done. I'm just going to read the survey questions for your reflection. As always, you have the link we've been sharing out every week, but these are the questions related to relationships in the Digital Wellness Institute survey. When I engaged in conversation with my family or friends, I put my phone away or any device, close the computer, turn away from the computer to give them my full attention. And some of you have shared some victories with that this week. I get distracted by my phone when I'm with my significant other or a close friend or other family members. When I reach out to friends online, I feel more connected or less lonely. How true or false in this? For me, a lot of times I think I'm feeling more connected, but it's more of that illusion of connection. It depends on who they are and why I'm connecting. The research shows that if we go to online networks when we aren't doing well, if we don't have a specific purpose, it can actually make things worse. I feel like I can reach out to people for support online. There are settings where that can work and other settings where it can be more of that illusion of support. And when engaging on social media, I know the people I can trust. In a future module, we'll be talking not just about people we can trust, but information, the challenge with information and trusting information online. There is another survey from the Digital Wellness Institute called the Positive Mediated Social Interactions Survey that I'm going to share for homework, if you will, that allows for self-reflection about connectedness, civil participation, online social comparison, self-presentation, and self-control. And we'll be discussing this a little bit more in the coming weeks. Just wanted to end with this from Sherry Turkle. She was interviewed on NPR and about COVID and the impact of technology and COVID, and she says this is a chance for us to because, you know, for a time, everybody was, the norm was to stay home, and children were doing school from home virtually if they were in public school, and people were working from home, and it really changed the dynamic of things. And she says, gave us an opportunity to reflect. She says, this is a liminal time. It's like a time out of time. It's a time betwixt and between where you get a chance. The rules are broken and you get a chance to reassess what you really need. And I think that's what we have now. We have a chance to come back and not be wowed by technology, to reassess the virtue of the human and relationships, and to act more deliberately in our relationships with each other. So that is what we have today. As usual, our invitation is, if you haven't taken the survey, to go ahead and do that. In the slides, you'll see a connection, a link for that second survey that I mentioned. And to practice one principle from today's topic, or just any digital wellness or digital deliberateness principle this week, so that we can talk about it again and share our learning and growth with each other when we come back together next week. Any final thoughts before we end?
Just thank you very much. This was wonderful. We appreciate everyone being here. Again, a huge thank you to our, for the grants that make these parent conversations possible. And it will be posted, and then we will post in the groups live so that you can listen to the replay. So thank you so much, Michelle, and for everyone for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity and for all of the great discussion today.